All right, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. We're here with Miguel. We are very excited to be speaking with him and learning about his experiences. Miguel, welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam. Hello, everybody. Um, yeah, glad to be here. I've been around the faith for quite a few years now, if I'm not mistaken, since 2013. So I've had some ups and downs and some family experiences and some typical hardships that I think most people with culture clashes experience. But it's your interview, so you got the questions. Lay 'em on me.
All right, wonderful. So tell us about your first Ramadan. What were some of your expectations going in? What ended up being a reality? What were some surprises?
My first Ramadan was actually before Islam. I was actually I did it as a support for a coworker who was Muslim. Who still is a Muslim, I should say. He was fasting, and I was asking about what's his fasting business all about, and he tried to explain it to me, and I didn't understand anything. Gave me a copy of the Quran to read. I didn't read it. At the time I was just doing the fasting, the no eating, no drinking, but I still wasn't praying. But I did want to see what it was like to actually not eat or drink or go through the feelings, or at least that were being described to me by my coworker. Feeling humbled, feeling more appreciative, and I did. So I didn't expect much going in, except that I was going to be hungry. But then I found that during the process, for the first 2 or 3 days, was really difficult. And then after I got into the routine of waking up really early and for that super early breakfast, I think it's called suhoor, um, the I started noticing some changes in my in the way my brain works. I think the way that the day actually started well, and it actually got well. I was able to focus more, and a lot of some people I think consider the little miracles. I found more time in my day to get things organized and done, and my eyes started to open a little bit to maybe this maybe not the religion itself, but some of the regimented aspects of it may actually be beneficial for my health. So that was actually one of my intro. So I was actually more intrigued by the daily prayers and the health benefits associated with the motions, the body motions. So for my second Ramadan, which was actually my first after my Shahada, I had incorporated the actual Islam into it. But I don't know if I've sidetracked too much. Munir, catch me if I have. I can ramble. Um, but my expectations for my second Ramadan were a lot higher. I didn't want to miss any prayers. But then it's a little difficult because I didn't know the words and whatnot. So for my second Ramadan, I actually kind of sat in place and just waited a specific preset number of seconds while my examples were going to the mosque, which we'll get to a little later, because that was an interesting experience. I'm not sure if it's one of the questions, but maybe we could squeeze that experience in.
Well, go ahead and tell us about it right now. Tell us about your Shahada experience.
Okay. Well, before my Shahada, because that that was actually, believe you orchestrated that, Munir. There was a particular mosque in the city that I lived in. I don't want to put them on blast, but I actually walked in unannounced, stepped on the carpet with my shoes on, and all these other things that probably upset some folks. And my first actual Islam experience from real Muslims, so to say, was being yelled at in foreign language and told to leave the building because of, I guess, my behavior or something or another. I didn't understand. It was in a foreign language, and all I was doing was looking for a pamphlet or maybe some more information on how to pray, or what Islam was all about, or maybe just sit down and speak with somebody to see if my ideals kind of lined up with the religion's ideals and whatnot, and that didn't happen. And I went to their website, complained, and I found you, Munir, and then led me to the Talif Collective I'm not mistaken. You said that was the place where the beginners go, or something to that effect. And well, here we are today, still practicing. So real life changing event, but it wasn't easy because after actually I was almost turned away from the fold because of the initial treatment. I figured, well, if this is how the pious people treat people, then maybe I don't want to be one of these. And I'm really glad that I investigated further, because I couldn't have been further from the truth.
Very sorry about that unfortunate beginning experience, but alhamdulillah that you were able to find a community. And that's what I would like to talk about. What were your experiences like with that community during that first Ramadan? Were there positives, negatives?
Well, with the actual community at Talif, everything was great, because they were so welcoming. They gave me a Quran, a prayer mat, some instructions, some guidance, people to call, websites that I could go to if I was feeling different or wanted to just read up or just kind of see, how to take the baby steps into Islam. So all that helped. The difficult parts were introducing the idea to my family, which are predominantly Christian Catholic mix. So there aren't very many Muslims in my family, primary family or extended family. So it was really, and then this was, we're in 2013, but still the stigma that 9/11 I guess brought so in 2001 to my family members who were I was younger then, but they still carried the stigma and thought that I was joining a cult or any other type of terrorist organization. So I had to overcome being called a terrorist, being called a sympathizer, just some pretty ignorant claims. So I did eventually. I think I overcame this with my family, not by arguing with them, but by simply just practicing my Islam. And then eventually they just accepted me for who I was. I never spent any time trying to convert anyone in my family, nor do I spend very much time trying to convert many people. I find that the religion almost speaks for itself, and most people ask me, what is it about you? And I find it's easier to give dawah that way than to try to change someone's mind. I let them take the first step, and the same thing happened with my family. They're not Muslim, but they're totally accepting now. It only took a few years, but it was tough being the black sheep in the family for the years, and sometimes it still feels like it, but everyone treats me a lot better now.
Alhamdulillah, glad to hear that. So you've had 8 Ramadans, 7 of which we were a Muslim. What do you look forward to now in Ramadan?
Well, to be honest, I actually, and not to say that I haven't been up to this point. I just the first thing that I really gravitate to as far as Ramadan is, I actually enjoy the I guess some people have described the suffering of the first few days of the fast. I like the challenge of being able to just stop eating and drinking cold turkey, and then just purely telling myself it's because of my fear of God, that I have the ability to just stop doing something that's been trained for 11 months. So I like to challenge my ability to do this. So I look forward to that moment, and I look forward to every morning, every new morning, with the same idea that I'm not. People are going to offer me food and water and tease me and say, hey, come have lunch with us and all these things. And I look forward to each opportunity to tell myself, no, thank you. No, thank you. And I find that more and more when I get challenged like that I tell myself that I'm not the reason I'm doing this, that I'm doing this for something greater than me. And I find it's easier to quit things during this month than any other month, actually. I can put the Xbox down. I can just put all sorts of frivolous things down during this month, and I'm finding. I mean, at least I read that that's because all the devils are locked up. So that probably has something to do with it. But I think I look forward to the challenge, the actual challenge of not eating or drinking, and then just pushing myself. So that's what I really look forward to for Ramadan. But I also use these moments as opportunities to reconnect with my faith, especially right now. I experienced a pretty traumatizing life event that I'd not like to go into too much detail about, but that's sort of broken my daily prayers routine, and I'm using this Ramadan to just get back on track and hopefully just stick with it in the end.
So Miguel, as a convert, do you have any advice to any newer Muslims out there who are currently experiencing their first Ramadan?
Actually, yes. Sometimes the first reaction some converts want to, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I went through these phases. I either wanted to really prove other people wrong, or I really wanted to just be quiet and take the abuse. I don't suggest you take any of those paths. Try to find the common middle. For example, you don't need to henpeck your parents if they disagree with your ideals or the ideals that you've chosen to follow. But you don't necessarily need to isolate yourself from them as well. So you can still be Muslim and their child. You don't have to dishonor your parents by trying to prove them wrong about their faith, or maybe they'll just come along in time, or if they don't, but they're still your parents, and you still have to honor them in all other manners. Just if they're advising you away from the faith, then you can distance yourself from them, but still honor your parents regardless of the distance. And I think if you apply the same concept to friends and extended family, that you shouldn't go wrong, really.
That's beautiful. Thank you for all the insight and sharing your story with us, Miguel. We really appreciate that, and continue to have a blessed Ramadan in these last 10 days. Jazakallah khair.
All right. Awesome.